Sometimes we wake with anxiety. What will happen today? What is in store for me? So many questions. We want resolution, solid earth under our feet. So we take life into our own hands. We take action, yeah? Our solutions are temporary. They are quick fix. They create more anxiety, more suffering. There is no resolution to life's questions. It is easier to be patient once we finally accept there is no resolution.
The White Lotus is an anthology series created, written, and directed by Mike White, the screenwriter who has brought you School of Rock, Nacho Libre, Pitch Perfect 3, The Emoji Movie. So many classics.
When I first started watching season 1 of The White Lotus, I actually checked it out because I remember Mike White was from Survivor.
Everybody in my business wants the Oscar. It's like, you're losers. Like, I want to win Survivor.
I thought it was cool that someone who competed on a reality show like that ended up creating their own HBO series.
You guys are my brothers, and we're marching into war.
Can we have cake first?
Ow.
Bitch. They're idiots.
That alone had me curious enough to watch the first episode, and from there I was completely pulled in. The way the show handled class, privilege, and all the awkward in-between moments felt different than anything else on TV at the time. And of course, Jennifer Coolidge was a huge part of what made it work. She brought this weird, sad, funny energy that somehow made everything she did feel important, even when she was just rambling.
This is it.
Her character Tanya was iconic from the start and gave the season so much personality. I left that season thinking, okay, this show is onto something.
I'm trying to have a romantic time with my wife.
Hey.
I thought season 1 was really fun. I'm comfortable saying fun and not great because I wasn't really blown away by what I was watching, but I did have a blast, if that makes sense. There are some really standout comedic performances like Jennifer Coolidge, Steve Zahn, and Murray Bartlett as Armand, who steals the entire season in my opinion, as a hotel manager who is hanging on by a thread with the most chaotic energy we've seen on screen at that point since Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. For 6 episodes, you are taken on quite the ride that I think anyone can recommend unless you're one of those people who act like Dudley from Harry Potter whenever they watch an explicitly political show.
36, but last year I had 37!
I would like to take a jab at the way that season 1 looks. It is aggressively ugly and doesn't really do Hawaii justice. Sure, there's really great shots of waves and stuff, but the yellow makes me want to die. It is disgusting. It's like 20 years ago when a Hollywood movie would be in Mexico and they were like, Mexico is yellow.
Guess who I am? What? Peppa Pig.
With season 2, Mike White creates a hilarious and oftentimes jaw-dropping series of events with Sicily as its backdrop. Unlike season 1, where I felt like certain characters and subplots weren't doing a whole lot for me, season 2 is simultaneously longer and tighter, with each twist, turn, and red herring pulling me in even more. This is the first time I've ever seen Theo James play an interesting character, and the rest of the established and relatively unknown actors are insanely memorable, possibly Aubrey Plaza's best performance. The visuals were much more interesting and consistently dynamic. There was a scene transition that made my partner and I go, wow. It takes all the elements you enjoyed about season 1 and improved them in virtually every conceivable way. I didn't even take notes on this season. As soon as I heard the I was locked in, brother.
I agree, but again, Jennifer Coolidge stole the whole thing. Watching her navigate Tanya's story in a completely new setting was so entertaining and sad at the same time. She was the heart of the show in a lot of ways, and her ending in season 2 hit way harder than I expected it to. I'll never forget her delivery of, "The gays are trying to kill me." It will be etched into my memory forever. Should I say that normally too, just in case?
You know, if you didn't do an impression of her, I was just going to make you try to do an impression of her.
But I just did it anyway.
Yeah, you just did it anyway.
Because literally whenever I talk about her in the show, I'm always like, the gays are trying to kill me.
Do you know these gays?
Which I guess brings us to season 3, which in my view is simultaneously thought-provoking and annoying. So the opening credits start and they changed the song.
I literally skip it every time because I miss the that was the best thing, and they just got rid of it completely.
I was against it at first, but it grew on me, especially after it was first used when Greg reappeared. The driving drums really make themselves apparent because of the aesthetics and what's going on in the scene itself, and you feel this forward momentum. It implies that we're going somewhere. It is sad to see how Mike White and Cristobal Tapia de Veer's collaboration is falling apart in the public square because this music adds so much to this show. It's just unfortunate that it didn't really help me care that much because it took me a while to care at all for anything that was going on.
Same. I honestly didn't feel connected to anyone in a real way. Chelsea and Rick stood out the most, but not because I cared about them emotionally. Their relationship was messy from the jump, and some of their scenes were genuinely hard to sit through.
God, you're so shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you are an idiot.
Watching Chelsea stand by Rick while he spiraled just made me feel indifferent. Fabian didn't do anything for me either. He didn't have the personality or presence that Armand or Valentina had. His whole thing about wanting to be a singer just felt random and pulled me out every time it came up. The previous managers were such important characters who really brought something to the story. They gave you a look into how the staff dealt with all the chaos and ridiculousness of the guests. And without someone like that grounding things, it felt like something was missing. It made me realize how much they actually mattered to the overall vibe of the show. There's many archetypes from the previous seasons that are trying to be filled here, but there's something wrong here.
Is it because we're seeing these dynamics play out for the third time, or is it something deeper?
I think I just miss Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah, me too, but I don't think I would want her to bonk her head and die again.
Goodbye, Mother.
A lot of people have been complaining that the show is too slow and nothing happens, which I don't think is entirely true, but I think being given an extra episode plus having a 90-minute finale, there was definitely plenty of time to deliver the goods, but I think our emotional investment was stifled a lot by the initial episodes of this season. Characters will talk to each other like they've never met before, even if they're related.
Did we have to go halfway around the world? Couldn't she write her thesis on her own religion?
You know what this reminds me of? When we did that sketch in school and we were all one person.
And I was the arms. And I put lipstick on. I got all of your face. So you got a final today?
Yeah, I have microeconomics this morning, then statistics Wednesday, and then I'm coming to see you.
Everyone tells me what a great man you are.
A blender for my protein shakes, Mom.
Does it taste good?
Oh, it tastes like crap. Who cares? It's not about the taste. It's about the pump.
พ่อแม่เราก็รู้จักกันพี่ก็สนิทกับน้องๆของมุกทำงานที่เดียวกันคนบ้านเดียวกัน
Just have to eat healthy. You know, it's a part of my job, right? And if I weren't neurotic enough, now I'm married to a guy who's 10 years younger, and he's always getting hit on.
Eventually, each character feels like they have their own distinct voice, but Mike White really ham-fisted the exposition in the beginning. It was kind of grating.
But Timothy went to Duke. Saxon graduated Duke. Lachlan, our youngest, just got accepted to both.
But more importantly, there are more straightforward scenes in this season, and a lot less of that fun structure that was so present in the first season, starting in one place and intentionally turning it on its head in a comedic direction.
I don't see it here.
Okay, a plastic bag.
A white plastic, yeah, it's very important, yeah. Do you think they could have left it on the wheelie?
It's more of a straightforward drama / dark comedy than leaning into the formula that worked. It's very much missed. And although we do get laugh out loud, hilarious scenes like Leslie Bibb's character trying to get Parker Posey's character to acknowledge her after they met like 10 years ago, or even Sam Rockwell's cameo appearance, basically starting off with this insane monologue that goes on and on and on, and it seems like it's never going to end. The old formula is missing. It's very much missed. I miss it. It's almost like Mike White is getting high off his own supply a little bit, and the cynicism that was once the identity of the show is beginning to wane.
He responded to the backlash of the season's pacing saying, "There was complaining about how there's no plot. That part I find weird. It never did. Part of me is just like, bro, this is the vibe. I'm world building. If you don't want to go to bed with me, then get out of my bed. I'm edging you. Enjoy the edging. If you don't want to be edged, then get out of my bed. Do you know what I mean? Don't be a bossy bottom. Get the out of my bed. Don't come home with me. Don't get naked in my bed. Get the out of my bed. Obviously something is going to happen. Well, I'm shocked the robbery didn't really affect the guests in any serious way. Wouldn't these people be losing their minds if something like this happened on their vacation? Wouldn't the Karens be Karening? But hey, Thailand looks pretty. They do a really good job at making you want to go to these places, but I am not going to Europe ever.
Why?
Something about it feels off. I don't know.
The aesthetics in this season are incredibly gorgeous. The pillow shots between scenes and moments serve a different purpose based on the scene that surrounds it. The shots of nature after the robbery, which highlight the fragility of life, but also the bigger picture. The waves from season 1, the bust in the hotel room from season 2, the water drops coming in and out in season 3 whenever Timothy is thinking about death and visualizing that metaphor based on his interaction with the monk. That was all very cool. It's always been cool. As Lana Wachowski says,
if you really want to understand any art medium, you have to start understanding aesthetics. It's like studying life and you need to understand how DNA works. Aesthetics are like the DNA of art. And it's really the way that you begin to understand intent. Artistic intent is really the way that artists reveal themselves and their choices aesthetically.
And I think the more you read into these shots and when they occur, the more you get out of the experience. Besides, these cinematographers are shooting every episode of a given season. Let them have some fun. The medium close-up is the most boring shot in cinema, and you gotta let them let their freak flag fly. And in season 3, you see the cinematographer try to change it up a little bit, especially with the dinner scenes, which throughout this series have been pretty grating to look at because it's only one shot always. So when we get to like this cool stuff, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm here. I'm here for this. Parker Posey, Amy Lou Wood, Carrie Coon, and Walton Goggins give iconic performances this season. Parker Posey has officially achieved meme status with this role, so that Emmy is incoming. Amy Lou Woods reminds me of Olivia Colman, but like 25 years younger. Carrie Coon has been an underappreciated actor for a long time, so I hope she gets her flowers for this. I hate to say it, but Natasha Rothwell was not great this season. She was indicating every time she was on screen, just acting way too much, and she was doing way too much all of the time. I don't know if this was due to poor direction or what, but I found her performance to be very frustrating to sit through, which is in contrast to Walton Goggins, who channels rage and ego in such a vulnerable way it was impossible to look away from him. Which brings us to the finale, because I think this season has one theme that rises above all the many themes that are present here, and that is ego. Which is why I find myself thinking more positively about this season. Okay, I'm gonna butt into the point that I'm making really quick, and I just want to quickly acknowledge how much of an impression this season has made on me in positive and negative ways. And the more I'm editing this video, the more I'm thinking about it, and I wish I had more time to say more and talk about like how great of a foil Chelsea is, or how poorly written of a character Guy Talk is. He is the worst kind of passive character, and I want to get more into that, but I think I might save it for something else. Anyway, I just wanted to say that there's just so much. I'm dying here. I'm dying. Glenn, did you get a sense of that theme this season?
I didn't really pick up on that because I wasn't too emotionally invested in this season to get a grasp on a central theme beyond what's been the main themes of the show. Guy Talk going against his moral compass for a promotion and the attention of a girl he likes, the Ratliff's addiction to their lavish lifestyle, and Belinda basically becoming Tanya and ditching porn chai.
Starting a business. You, me.
Maybe.
That kind of financial win definitely changes things, but there's a heaviness to it too. The way she had to fall in line and stay quiet showed how power works when money is on the table, and it reminded me how often people are forced to fall into that same pattern just to keep going. But then there's a random incest storyline that doesn't go anywhere, and there's no resolution. It didn't feel like it added anything meaningful to the overall story or character development of each character. It stuck with me for the wrong reasons and left a weird taste in my mouth.
Is that the choice of words you want to use with this subplot, my guy?
Yes, that was very intentional.
Was it salty?
No. There's lots of pineapple in my diet, so.
All right, buddy. Well, I think that's a good place to start with my interpretation of events because Saxon's character is so aggressive and gross throughout this season. He thinks he's God's gift to the world until they take those drugs and do the thing, but after that night, he remembers what happened and begins to change his behavior. He becomes vulnerable as he's traversing through this. Like, look at his reaction to Chelsea reuniting with Rick. But as all White Lotus characters do, he reverts back to factory settings.
Let's just drop this. Like, forever, please.
Lachlan didn't really do much, but he just kind of existed to serve Saxon's character, and his fake death was the most film school shit I've ever seen. A character metaphorically drowning in the water is the most original idea of all time. Almost as original as starting your indie film with the main character getting out of bed. What I will say about the incest storyline, though, is that at least it wasn't a twist.
Because brothers and sisters don't sleep together after they have full-grown, genitals.
They were teasing it from the beginning, so you can't really get too mad about it. It could have been something that just happened in the final episode. It could have been a full-blown incestuous relationship, and I'm glad it wasn't. But instead, it was just a tool to have these characters change. But the rest of the family has their own trials with ego. After Piper spends the night at the monastery, she realizes she can't go along with her plan to stay in Thailand for the year. I think Lachlan's presence doesn't really help her want to stay, but she later confesses that she likes her treats. She can't let go of the life that she has. In contrast to Timothy, her father, who enters the White Lotus attached to his phone and spends the rest of the season learning to let go of not just his idea of what life could and should be for him and his family, but life itself. He was ready to let go and end it all, and his reaction to his daughter's confession was priceless. He is embarrassed by the privilege he's cultivated in his family. He is disgusted by his wife, who acknowledges her ego but doesn't see it as a bad thing. She believes it's a waste to self-pity and self-actualize, which is so interesting, and watching the tables turn in this scene was such a highlight because Piper's spiritual journey brought Timothy to this place.
You seem legitimate,
I should have gone with you.
So watching it basically be all for nothing was just like the best way to pull the rug out from under you. But it is wishful thinking to conceive of a man like this with his background to come to this conclusion, because historically this has never happened. And I can prove that because you can look at the slew of men in Hollywood, for instance, who are trying to make a comeback right now after proving they cannot handle having power. And another guy who is in a similar position as Timothy had everything taken away from him and he unalived himself, and still no one on earth believes that he unalived himself. So once Timothy again returns to his factory settings by nixing his whole plan, Mike White unveils a greater layer to Timothy as a character, which ripples through the rest of the family, and that layer is this fundamental truth that these people are cowards. They do not suffer like we do. They do not face the consequences of their actions. As long as the rich don't steal from the rich, they can get away with anything. And if they do smell the slightest stink of losing their profound privilege, they will unalive themselves. But to make sure you, the audience, don't suffer like the rest of us do in this system, you must cause the suffering yourself, like Gaitok and Belinda do. Like Glenn said, Belinda became Tanya, which was her feeding into her ego. Since season 1, she's been at the service of others, but now she's taking the opportunity to step over people and get blood on her hands to escape her reality. And I think Zion quoting Obama's 2008 campaign slogan, "Yes, we can," was no accident.
Hey, yes, we can!
Ego does not only serve as a symbol in terms of plot and character, it also is an image in this season. The main visual symbol for Ego is the monkey. The first shot of this season is a low-angle camera move onto a monkey. It's used as a figure of speech in the dialogue.
Just don't feed them. Monkeys can be aggressive.
That's a huge monkey off your back.
Let us calm our chattering monkey minds.
It's then seen spectating our characters in therapy sessions and multiple moments when our characters are reaching new lows. But it is also used comedically. When Belinda gets the $5 million in her bank account, instead of seeing her scream, she is replaced by the monkey, by the visual symbol of ego. It's a hilarious cut, but it is also the perfect representation of how she has changed and how she is consumed by this. Rick is the most glaringly obvious example of ego in this show. He, at every opportunity, decides to take the more destructive route to give into this revenge narrative he's been feeding himself his whole life. And he does just enough to feed the bloodthirst while also staying relatable and watchable for a mass audience. Except for not trying to flee the resort with a whole day head start. That was so stupid.
Oh, this is so on brand for you. To be a victim of your own decisions.
But once his father, who I knew was his father from like episode 1, we all did, right? Like, it was so obvious that this was gonna happen, that this was the outcome. It was so telegraphed, it was almost not worth making that the twist at all. I don't know if Mike White's intention was to make it obvious or to have the twist actually be impactful, or if it was supposed to be a Greek tragedy type thing. But anyway, once his father confronts him and disparages his mother, that narrative that's protected him this whole time becomes under threat, and you see him begin to unravel and undo the work he had just done and self-destructs. The beginning of the finale starts with this.
There is no resolution to life's questions. It is easier to be patient once we finally accept there is no resolution.
Is the attempt to try to change a self-fulfilling prophecy? Do we have the strength to forge a new path after decades of learned behavior? These are things that this season is asking of its audience. Spirituality and death are definitely big parts of this season, but in my opinion, these are tools that are used to explore the idea of ego. This also works in the context of the Lori, Kate, and Jacqueline subplot. It's painfully obvious to point this out because there are no other vectors to disguise ego here. They are in constant competition with each other. The way they talk to each other versus the way they talk about each other is in the foreground. Seeing it unfold was interesting, but not nearly as interesting as everything else going on, in my opinion. And yeah, that's basically my thoughts on this season. It was very thought-provoking and frustrating, like I said before. Season 2 is still my favorite, though.
Do you know these gays?
I guess that makes sense. All in all, this season was kind of all over the place for me. There were moments that hit hard and made me stop and think, but there were also a bunch of choices that didn't really land. The show still plays with big ideas around money and power and how people act when they think no one's watching, and I always respect that, but this time around, it felt like the show was trying a little too hard to be shocking or intense without fully earning those moments. There's still potential, and I'll definitely keep watching, but this one didn't hit as hard as I hoped it would. Can't wait to see Greg in Greece.
Agreed. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you agree or disagree, tell us in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share with your friends. Do all the things. We have a Patreon. There's videos coming soon. Hit us up, all right? We're here. We're doing more TV. We're not trolling anymore. We're doing more TV. Okay. Bye-bye.